Okay, good day again. So today we're going to discuss lesson number 6, which will focus on the characters in creative nonfiction. So for this lesson, here are our objectives. So at the end of the discussion or at the end of this lesson, first you will be able to recognize character development in creative nonfiction, similar to that of fictional works. So again, we can still apply those strategies. Second, analyze and interpret the factual or non-fictional aspects in creative nonfiction. Third, evaluate the relationship of creative and non-fictional elements of CNF. Write a draft of a personal essay, do peer editing, and revise your draft. Fifth, use clearly and coherently multiple elements conventionally identified with a genre for a written output. And then lastly, do a close reading of creative nonfiction texts. Okay, so these are our objectives. So in our last lesson, we have somehow discussed the structure of creative nonfiction. So in writing your text or in writing your personal essays or creative nonfictional texts, you may have a very interesting, attention getting plot. But if your characters can contain that interesting aspects of your story, the story will somehow fall out. Okay, it will not make it through the end of the story, or the attention of the reader or the intentions of the reader in reading or finishing your text will somehow vanish. Okay, so it is really important for us to somehow again review the different characters and how can we give uh, justice to them so that they can handle that um, interesting part of our plot and somehow maintain and contain that interest all throughout the story. Okay, so when we are discussing fiction or the elements of fiction, we have somehow discussed there the different types of plot. Okay, and one of those types of plot is flat character or our flat character and round character. So those types of characters were proposed by E.M. Foster. Okay, so according to E.M. Foster, we can categorize characters into two according to their development. Okay, so one is the flat character and then the other one is the round character. So the characteristics of flat characters are: first, they are not integral to the plot, sorry, meaning they are not that important. So even if they're they are present in the story or not, the story will get through. Okay, it will be finished. Also, they are one-dimensional. So meaning their characteristics from the start of the story up until the end of the story will remain. If they are kind, all throughout the story, they are kind. So that's one-dimensional. Third, they can be easily recognized as stereotype. So meaning, if you said that the character is a bystander, the characteristics of a bystander will automatically get into the minds of our readers. Okay, you don't need to discuss their detailed characteristics anymore since they are stereotype. Um, the characteristics of this kind of characters are already established on the minds of our readers. Okay. Also, they only experience external change. So meaning the change will only happen uh, outside. So may it be the physical appearance or the looks of our characters. So That is the only change they will experience. They will never experience internal conflict. Okay? If we somehow discuss the different types of conflict, and one of those conflicts is the man versus himself, wherein our character or our the character somehow has or is having hard time to decide on a certain issue or a certain problem. So flat characters do not experience that kind of thinking or that kind of situation. Okay, and then they do not surprise the reader since they are one dimensional, since their characteristics are already established on our minds. They will no longer make some surprise. Okay? They will not somehow affect that much the the story. Okay, so here are some of the common types or examples of flat characters. So first we have the villains and their henchmen. When we say henchmen, they are the right hand, the right hand of a certain character. So examples are Voldemort and Darth Vader. Okay, and then we also have characters that appear in a series of books. Okay, so when they appear on those series or on those installations of that book, their characteristics remain the same. Okay, so we have Bella Swan in Twilight and then Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. So they are considered flat characters since the characteristics of these characters remain the same from the start up to the end of the story. And then we also have stock characters. So stock characters that appear to help the hero with their quests. So somehow they were just used to fulfill the adventure or the tasks given to the protagonist. Okay, so in here we have Polonius and Professor McGonagall. So stock characters are somehow they have a little importance in the story because if they were not for them, uh, somehow the hero will not finish or will not be able to do the task. Okay, so that importance is just a little. Okay, but if you will be looking at the story, even if they are not present, still the character or the protagonist will finish the task, but in a much longer period of time, I think. Okay, so those are some of the uh, examples and common types of flat characters. So next is round characters. So round characters, we all know that round characters experience changes or a series of change all throughout the story. So round characters are important to the plot. Okay, so unlike flat characters, if you will not be having a round character in your story, it it will not hold the interest of your readers. Okay, so they are the main characters of of a certain story, and then also round characters experience conflict, may it be internal or external conflict, may it be a conflict between man versus himself or man versus the different outside or external factors like the nature, the other characters on the story, may it be a belief, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then round characters or round character experiences external change throughout the telling of a story. So meaning it doesn't uh the development of the character does not end on the internal change like the behavior, the attitude of the character, even the external factors of that character change. Okay, his physical appearance, his looks, okay, the way he act, the way he move also change. Okay, and then round characters are multidimensional character. So meaning they have different characteristics. Okay, they behavior change or changes over time, and then these characters want something. They need to do something. They need to act on a certain problem or a certain conflict. They need to accomplish a certain goal. So they have purpose. Okay, and then round character or characters are capable of surprising the audience since their characteristics change over time. So there are some instances that we do not expect it or expect that that character will be uh this one, or he or she will act this way. Okay, so there are some aspects, or there are aspects wherein we really don't expect their actions and behaviors. Okay, so here are some of the examples of round characters. First, syempre po, we have the protagonists. So the main hero or the main characters of our story. So in here we have examples like Hamlet, Luke Skywalker, and Harry Potter. And then we also have deuteragonists. So deuteragonists are secondary characters. We have Leia Organa, we have Hermione Granger, and or Ron Weasley of Harry Potter. We also have confidants or aides. Confidants are a very trusted person. So it's like your best friend wherein you tell your secrets. Okay. So those are the functions or the roles of confidants. So confidants, examples of this kind of characters are Dumbledore or Obi-Wan Kenobi. So again, these kind of characters or these examples of characters experience change all throughout the story. Okay, so aside from categorizing characters into their development or in according to the changes they experience in a text or in a story, we could also categorize them in according to their role. Okay, so in ancient Greek dramas or play, they categorized characters uh, into four. Okay, we have the protagonists or the hero of the story. We have the antagonist, the villain. We also have the what do you call this? The deuteragonist or the secondary character or the supporting characters. And we also have tritagonists. Okay, tritagonists are minor characters. They are like stock characters that somehow has a little importance or have a little importance in the story. Okay, so protagonist, antagonist, deuteragonist, and tritagonist. So those are the four types of character in ancient Greek dramas. Okay, so in writing our creative non-fictional text, according to Gutkind, we as writers must be ready to answer questions. We must always be prepared to answer questions thrown or that will be thrown by our readers. So, for example, in our fervor or in our interests to be cinematic and to provide readers with compelling characters, the question is how do we avoid or how will we avoid crossing the murky line or that very thin line between fact and fiction. So, if you will be writing some creative non-fictional text according to Gutkin, you must be prepared to answer such kind of questions. Okay? So, in writing your um, narrative essays, especially when developing your characters, it is important to make your narrative appear or to appear authentic. Okay? The essay or the text must look like it's real. Okay? It must look like it's happening on that same spot. Okay? So, for example, you may look at this kind of or at this excerpt taken from the essay of Lorna Calao Tirol entitled Bibsi Carballo, Taking Things as They Come. Okay, so here's the excerpt. And so let me read it to you. As times passed, this store does well enough to help cover the rent, so that when scandalized friends like Panorama editor Letty Jimenez Magsanok exclaim, "Naku naman, Bibsi, why do you have a sari-sari store? Nakakahiya naman." She is quick to retort, "Bakit? Anong nakakahiya dyan?" So, in here, you may observe that the conversation looks real. Okay? It's realistic because the author made use of code switching. Okay, so when we talk about or when we speak of code switching, this is the act or practice of moving back and forth between two languages. So for example, in that excerpt, we use English and Filipino. You may also use code switching whenever you are using uh, two dialects like for example Tagalog and Bisaya, Cebuano and Hiligaynon, and so on and so forth. You may also use it whenever you are using Gaylingo and then Filipino or English and Gaylingo. So you may also use code switching in that aspect. So whenever we are using code switching, the conversation will look like it's real because nowadays we tend to use this kind of uh, speaking whenever we are talking to someone. Okay, it is common among us people whenever we are speaking. Okay, aminin naman na po natin na whenever we are conversing or talking to someone, there are some ideas or there are some information that we can or we cannot express in Filipino, or sometimes we cannot express in English. So we tend to use the language wherein we are comfortable using. Okay? So yeah, that's one strategy that you may use so that your text will look authentic or real. Another thing is you may also use characterization. So when we talk about characterization, this is the act or a strategy or a literary device wherein we put descriptions, characteristics to our characters. Okay, so in here, we are somehow giving out the character's physical traits, okay, their physical appearance, their beliefs, the notions they are doing, the way they speak or their speech, their behavior, and so on and so forth. So having a clear view of our character will make it easier for us to compose the dialogue. So if we instilled in our mind that the character or our character is this, so it will be automatically or it will be easy for us to write their speeches or their dialogues. Okay? So in writing or in doing characterization, we may do it in two ways. The first one is direct or explicit characterization. So in this kind of characterization, we enumerate or we itemize the personality or the traits of our character. We directly mention it in the text. So for example, in this excerpt, Gino is level-headed, diplomatic, and receptive. Okay, those are the characteristics of Gino. It is directly stated on the text. So that's direct or explicit characterization. On the other hand, we also have indirect or implicit characterization. So this kind of characterization, you are revealing the personality and traits of the character through his or her thoughts, words, or actions. You are not directly telling that the character is like this, like that, like those. You are describing them through their actions, through the words they are using, the way they are thinking. So those are the strategies that you are using whenever you are doing indirect characterization. So for example, in here, the way how Gino speak, okay, the way how he uh, managed to hold his comrades or companions somehow tells that he is composed, he is patient. Okay, so observe that his the words he used. Okay, gentlemen, I think we can work this out. Okay, hindi yung basta-basta kayo nagdedesisyon. Ayan, so let us listen to each other's points first and then come up with a shared decision. So meaning, Gino is considerate, uh, he is critical, he will consider all of the things that are need to be considered before taking or doing an action. Okay, so you can observe that characteristic of Gino through his speech or through the way he speak to others. Okay, so those are the different types of characterization. So if you want to know more about this topic, you may visit these references that I have used or I have sourced into. Okay, ayan. So thank you again for listening and have a great day ahead.